We wake up, and before our feet touch the floor, the world has already begun its assault on our attention. It is a slow, quiet invasion, occurring in the space between our eyelids fluttering open and our first conscious thought of the day. We reach for the phone, that glowing rectangle that serves as our primary tether to the modern collective, and in that reach we are already drifting. We are no longer resting in our own skin, we are projecting ourselves into the digital clouds, measuring the worth of our existence by the velocity of notifications and the subtle, rhythmic pulse of societal expectation. Consider the sensation of the morning. It is not the crisp, grounded clarity of a forest at dawn, where every scent of damp earth and pine needle speaks of presence. Instead, it is a hazy, fractured reality. We feel a tightness in the solar plexus, a subtle, persistent knot that we have learned to normalize. It is the feeling of being an actor who has forgotten their lines but remains center stage, terrified that the audience at that nebulous, judging gaze of the social collective might finally realize we are merely improvising. We move through the morning rituals with an efficiency that masks a profound internal stagnation. We are busy, yes. We are productive, certainly. But beneath the surface, there is a low-frequency hum of dissatisfaction, a subtle friction that tells us we are always slightly out of sync with the actual texture of our lives. We are drifting because we have allowed our sense of self to be anchored in places where it cannot possibly hold firm. Think of a ship that attempts to drop its anchor into a field of tall grass. Instead of the solid, silent seabed, the anchor drags, catching on roots and stones, vibrating through the hull, creating a constant rattling dissonance. That anchor is our reliance on external validation, our obsession with the trajectory of our careers, and the compulsive need to curate a version of ourselves that is acceptable to the marketplace of opinions. We are dragging these heavy, rusted chains of expectation through the clear, shallow waters of our present moments, churning up the silt until we can no longer see the bottom. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from this, a tiredness that sleep cannot mend. It is an exhaustion of the spirit born from the sheer labor of maintaining the facade. We wake, and we begin the performance. We adjust the mask. We calibrate our tone of voice. We perform the role of the capable professional, the attentive partner, the resilient friend. But who is the one observing this performance? When we pause for a heartbeat, when the silence of an elevator ride or the stillness of a red light forces us to be alone with ourselves, for 10 seconds we encounter a strange, sharp pang of loneliness. It is not the loneliness of isolation, it is the loneliness of being a stranger to our own core. We have spent so much time tending to the garden of our reputation that the soil of our own inner landscape has turned to dust. We see this everywhere, reflected in the eyes of those we pass on the street. We see it in the way we avoid the gaze of strangers, opting instead to stare into the abyss of our screens, seeking distraction from the sudden, terrifying possibility that we might have to confront the vacancy of our own intentions. We are afraid that if we stop, if we truly drop the anchors we have been dragging, we might discover that we don't know who we are without the weight. We fear the lightness. We fear that without the friction of our anxieties, we might lose our momentum. And if we lose our momentum, we might have to acknowledge that we have been moving in the wrong direction all along. The reality of our current condition is that we have become excellent at survival, but entirely unskilled at living. We have refined the art of managing our stress, optimizing our schedules, and biohacking our biology, yet we remain fundamentally unsatisfied. This is the friction of unfulfilled desires, the persistent sense that the horizon is always moving away from us. We believe that if we just clear one more obstacle, finish one more project, or achieve one more milestone, we will finally be granted permission to exhale. But the horizon is a line that exists only in our perception, and the act of chasing it is exactly what keeps us from noticing the ground beneath our feet. We often mistake this constant state of striving for growth. We tell ourselves that we are building, that we are evolving, that this discomfort is the price of admission for a life of significance. But examine that discomfort closely. Is it the growing pain of an expanding soul, or is it the abrasive rub of a mismatched life? If we were to be entirely honest, we might see that much of our ambition is actually a flight mechanism. We are running away from the quiet. We are terrified of the silence, because in the silence, the voices of our authentic selves might start to speak, and they might tell us truths we are not yet prepared to hear. This is the state of the modern seeker, drifting in a sea of options, drowning in a flood of information, yet thirsty for a single drop of genuine meaning. We are connected to everything and grounded in nothing. We possess the entirety of human knowledge in the palms of our hands, yet we are increasingly incapable of finding the simple, steady center of our own existence. We act as if our lives are a sequence of tasks to be completed, a series of boxes to be checked, completely missing the fact that life is not a sequence, but an unfolding. We are the river, yet we are trying to control the flow, trying to dictate where the water should go, forgetting that the river only knows how to be itself by surrendering to the pull of gravity. We are, for all intents and purposes, sleepwalking through our waking hours. We are so preoccupied with the scripts we have inherited, the scripts about what it means to be successful, what it means to be happy, what it means to be an adult, that we haven't stopped to ask if these scripts are written in our own hand. We are living by proxy, delegating the authority of our own lives to the opinions of colleagues, the expectations of family, and the arbitrary standards of a culture that thrives on our insecurity. We think we are making choices, but we are merely responding to stimuli, reacting to the demands of a world that views us only as an instrument of output. Consider the weight of these invisible anchors. They are not physical, yet they carry the density of lead. They are the expectations we internalized before we even knew how to question them. They are the fears we collected like rare artifacts, keeping them on the mantle of our identity, polishing them with our constant attention. They are the regrets we carry from yesterday and the preemptive anxieties we manufacture for tomorrow. We lug them everywhere. We bring them into our homes, into our relationships, into the very intimacy of our own thoughts, and then we wonder why we feel so heavy, why we feel so stuck, why the joy we once anticipated feels like a dull, distant echo. We are not victims of the world, though we often speak as if we are. We are the architects of our own imprisonment, meticulously building the walls of our cage with the bricks of our own habitual reactions. Every time we choose the path of least resistance, we reinforce the cage. Every time we ignore the signals our bodies are sending us, the subtle warnings that we are pushing too hard, the whispers that we are ignoring our own needs, we narrow the space in which we are allowed to breathe. We are suffocating ourselves, and the tragic irony is that we are the ones holding the pillow. But there is a recognition here, a spark of awareness that begins to glow in the darkness. The very fact that we can feel this weight, that we can notice this friction, is the first indication that we are not entirely lost. It is the part of us that remains untouched, the part that is not an actor, not a performer, not a victim. It is the observer, the silent witness that sits behind the eyes, watching the struggle without being captured by it. This observer is our bridge back to reality. It is the silent, steady center that can endure the storm without being moved by it. And it is from this point of observation that we can begin to see the ropes that bind us, to realize that they are not forged of iron, but of our own persistent attachment to ideas that are no longer true. We have arrived at a moment of transition. The old way of existing, the way of the performer, the way of the drifter, is no longer sustainable. The cost of maintaining the facade has become higher than the reward of the performance. The body is beginning to fail, the mind is becoming fractured, and the soul is hungry for something that the current life cannot provide. This is not a failure. This is the necessary prelude to a profound awakening. This is the exhaustion that leads to the surrender, the point where we stop trying to fix the life we have and start asking what kind of life we actually wish to inhabit. We are standing at the threshold of a new way of being, and the first step is to simply acknowledge where we are, not where we want to be, not where we hope to be, but exactly here. In the tension, in the confusion, in the messy, unpolished reality of this specific, unrepeatable heartbeat. We are here, we are breathing, and we are finally, tentatively, willing to look at the anchors. We are willing to see them for what they are, not as defining features of our character, but as temporary attachments that have outlived their usefulness. We are ready to learn the architecture of release, to understand how to let go without falling, and to discover what it means to be truly, radiantly present in a world that is always trying to pull us away. The journey ahead is not a climb to a higher peak, but a descent into the depths of our own being, a journey to find the ground that has been waiting for us all along. We are the sailors who have been fighting the current, only to realize that the current is not an enemy, but the very force that moves us. We are, at last, ready to be moved. There is a physiological reality to this stagnation that we rarely pause to examine. When we speak of being tethered, we are not speaking merely of an abstract philosophical concept. We are speaking of a biological event. Look closely at how your body carries the weight of your history during a standard Tuesday afternoon. Notice the way your trapezius muscles have climbed toward your ears, as if trying to shield your neck from an invisible threat. Observe the shallow, fractured rhythm of your breath, which never truly reaches the base of your lungs, stuck in the upper chest like a bird, beating its wings against the bars of a cage. This is the posture of a person who is constantly preparing for an impact that never comes. We have constructed an archetype of the perpetual performer, a character we play in the theater of our own lives. This character is never truly at rest because they are convinced that the moment they stop moving, the moment they stop producing, the moment they cease to impress or perform, the entire architecture of their identity will collapse. Consider the executive sitting in an ergonomic chair, surrounded by the hum of cooling fans and the relentless glow of monitors. They feel a sharp, stabbing pressure behind the eyes, a somatic reminder of the spreadsheets and the deadlines and the perceived catastrophic consequences of a single missed comma. The body is screaming a message that the mind is refusing to translate, that this urgency is a construction, a frantic dance performed to keep a ghost alive. This physical constriction is the direct byproduct of how we interact with the challenges of our days. When an unexpected obstacle arises, a sharp criticism from a superior, a sudden change in project scope, or a personal failure, we do not just experience the event. We envelop it in a narrative of catastrophic failure. We identify with the struggle so intensely that our physical nervous system reacts as if our very survival were under threat. We clench our jaws until our teeth ache, holding in the unspoken words that could potentially disrupt the image we have so carefully curated. This is the weight of the invisible anchor. We are holding up the weight of expectations that belong to other people, expectations that have become the scaffolding of our bones. Think of the internal landscape as a great ancient greenhouse that has been allowed to fall into disrepair. The glass is opaque with the grime of accumulated anxieties, and the air inside is heavy, stagnant, and breathless. We have allowed the weeds of our future fares to grow so thick that they have choked out the original purpose of the garden. We spend our energy patrolling the perimeter, making sure no one sees the rot, no one sees the cracks in the foundation, no one sees the fear that we are fundamentally lacking. We are terrified that if we were to let the light in, if we were to open the vents and let the fresh air of reality circulate, People would see us as we truly are, unadorned, unfinished, and, in our own eyes, inadequate. This is where the nervous system begins to wear down. We are operating in a state of high alert, a chronic sympathetic nervous system activation that is meant for escaping predators, not for answering emails. The body is intelligent. It is attempting to alert us to the danger of our misalignment. The chronic fatigue, the unexplained headaches, the digestive distress. The insomnia, these are not merely illnesses to be medicated or ignored. They are the body's language, a desperate attempt to communicate that we are dragging our anchor through the shallow water and tearing the seabed apart. We have become disconnected from the biological wisdom that knows how to rest, how to heal, and how to just be. Observe the way we handle the moments of transition in our lives. When a relationship shifts or a career path reaches a dead end, we do not lean into the uncertainty. We tighten our grip on the wreckage. We attempt to reassemble the pieces of the old broken identity, hoping that if we glue it together tightly enough, no one will notice the seams. This is the archetype of the builder, who refuses to acknowledge that the foundation has shifted. We spend our life force fighting the inevitable, attempting to dictate the flow of the river rather than navigating the current. The stress that we feel is not caused by the events themselves. It is caused by the desperate, exhausting effort to maintain the illusion of control in a world that is defined by its constant state of flux. We are so deeply identified with these roles: the achiever, the fixer, the caregiver, the rebel, that we have forgotten they are merely garments we have put on. We have mistaken the coat for the skin. When the world asks us to shed the coat, we feel the cold of exposure, and we panic. We believe that if we are not the roles we play, we are nothing at all. This is the root of the friction. We are fighting to stay the same in a universe that demands we be different every single moment. The tragedy is that we are expending all of our vitality to preserve a version of ourselves that was never truly alive to begin with. Consider the sensation of being caught in the middle of a conflict. Your palms sweat, your heart rate spikes, and your mind immediately begins to construct a defense. This is the ego, that phantom architect, rushing to protect its construction. It tells you that you must be right, that you must be seen as competent, that you must not let your armor slip. It tells you that your worth is a fragile thing, a porcelain vase that will shatter if it hits the ground. It demands that you take the situation personally, that you internalize the friction and make it a permanent part of your identity. It forces you to relive the experience over and over again, dissecting your every word, worrying about how you were perceived, wondering if you could have said it differently. This is how we create the weight. We take a momentary event, a brief flash of heat in the forge of life, and we decide that it is a permanent mark upon our character. We carry the memory of that friction into the next hour, into the next day, and it colors our interactions. It limits our capacity to see clearly. It makes us reactive rather than responsive. We become prisoners of our own narrative, trapped in a cage made of our own interpretations. We are so preoccupied with managing the reaction that we never actually deal with the stimulus itself. We are too busy fighting the ghosts of our own making to notice the reality of the present. The body remembers this better than the mind does. The tightness in your shoulders after a difficult meeting is not just physical, it is the physical manifestation of the story you have told yourself about that meeting. It is the echo of the internal dialogue that tells you that your performance was inadequate, that you have failed, that you are not enough. This story is a weight, a heavy, iron chain that you have bolted to your own ankles. You are dragging it behind you as you try to walk, and you are surprised that you are slow, that you are exhausted, that you are not moving with the grace you see in others. You are not slow, you are burdened by your own attachments. Think of the way you describe your struggles to others. We use the language of battle. We say we are fighting against the odds, struggling with our demons, wrestling with our problems. We see ourselves as being in a constant state of combat. But against whom are we fighting? There is no external enemy. The difficulty we face is the resistance of our own expectations hitting the reality of what is. When we are caught in the grip of this struggle, we are not looking for truth, we are looking for victory. We want to be right. We want to be safe. We want to be comfortable. We are not interested in reality if reality disagrees with our carefully constructed self-image. This is the state of the modern person. We are living in a house of mirrors, convinced that the reflections are the only reality. We see ourselves as weak, as fearful, as inadequate, and we treat these labels as facts. We base our entire future on these perceptions, making decisions from a place of fear rather than a place of groundedness. We limit our potential, we shy away from opportunities, we sabotage our own happiness. All because we are convinced that the reflections are the truth. We are like a sculptor who has spent so much time carving the statue that they have forgotten they are the one holding the chisel. They become obsessed with the statue, worrying if it is being praised, worrying if it is being criticized, until they no longer remember their own hands, their own strength, their own ability to carve something entirely different. If we were to pause for a moment, to truly look at the body as it is in this instant without the stories, without the judgments, without the need to explain or justify, what would we see? We would see a complex, beautiful machine that is capable of incredible resilience. We would see breath flowing in and out, independent of our approval. We would see a heart that beats without our permission. We would see a nervous system that is trying in its own way to return to balance. But we are so distracted by the noise of our own internal chatter, so preoccupied with the scripts of our own making, that we are missing the miracle of our own existence. We have reached a point where the noise has become the norm. We feel uncomfortable when it is quiet because the quiet is where the truth resides. In the quiet, we have to admit that we are lost. In the quiet, we have to admit that we are not the masters of our own destiny. In the quiet, we have to face the terrifying possibility that we have been building our lives on a foundation of sand, and so we continue to fill the space with more activity, more noise, more distraction. We keep the phone close at hand, we keep the schedule full, we keep the mind spinning, all to avoid that single moment of stillness where we might finally see the truth of our own condition. Consider the sheer exhaustion of it. Imagine carrying a heavy rucksack, day in and day out, filled with stones. Some stones are given to you by your parents, some are given to you by your teachers, some are given to you by your society, and some you have picked up yourself, believing they were valuable artifacts of your identity. You have been carrying this rucksack for so long that you have forgotten it is there. You think the weight is part of you. You think you are naturally slow, naturally burdened, naturally tired. You compare yourself to others, wondering why they seem so much lighter, so much more free, not realizing that they, too, are carrying their own rucksacks, their own stones, their own stories. The realization begins when we finally, for a heartbeat, put the rucksack down. It is not that the stones disappear, but for the first time, we can feel the weightlessness of our own bodies without them. We can feel the potential for movement. We can feel the energy that has been trapped, used to support the weight of the stones, finally being released. This is the moment of clarity, the moment when we realize that the struggle is not our identity. We are the ones who can choose to carry the stones, or we are the ones who can choose to walk free. We are so used to the feeling of being stuck that we have started to define our lives by our limitations. We say things like, "I am the kind of person who always gets anxious," or "I am the kind of person who struggles to trust." We turn these patterns into fixed traits as if they were carved into our souls. But what if they are not fixed? What if they are just patterns of behavior, habits of the nervous system? that we have repeated for so long that they have become automatic? What if we are not the ones who are stuck, but rather we are simply stuck in a loop of our own conditioning, like a record player needle caught in a scratch? This is the fundamental misperception of our modern life. We believe that we are our patterns. We believe that our thoughts are facts, our feelings are truths, and our reactions are fixed. We do not realize that we are the space in which these things arise. We are not the waves, we are the ocean. The waves are temporary, shifting, constantly changing shapes, but the ocean remains. We are so focused on the wave's anxiety, the anger, the ambition, that we have forgotten the depth of the ocean. We have forgotten that we can experience these waves without being submerged by them. If you are currently feeling the tension in your body, if you are currently feeling the pressure of your own expectations, if you are currently feeling the weight of the invisible anchors, know that this is not a sign of failure. This is a sign of awareness. This is the first, vital step of the path. You are noticing the weight. You are noticing the friction. You are no longer sleepwalking. You are becoming a witness to your own life. And from this place of witness there is the possibility of change. There is the possibility of unlearning the habits that have served you for so long and discovering the freedom that lies beneath. There is the possibility of becoming a master of your own house, of rearranging the furniture, of letting in the light, of tending the garden of your soul with intention and grace. The path ahead is not about adding more to your life, but about subtracting. It is not about becoming a better version of the person you currently are, but about letting go of the person you think you are supposed to be. It is a process of refinement, of peeling away the layers, of revealing the core of who you are, the part that is not an actor, not a performer, not a victim. It is the journey to reclaim your own life from the illusion of the stories you have told yourself. And it begins with a single, honest look at the mirror, not to critique the image, but to see the person who is doing the looking. We often feel that to let go of the struggle is to give up. We think that if we are not constantly straining, if we are not constantly fighting, we will lose our edge, we will fall behind, we will be rendered obsolete. This is the fear of the ego speaking. It is the fear that without the friction we will simply disappear. But what if the opposite is true? What if the struggle is the very thing that is holding us back, the very thing that is keeping us from the greatness we are capable of? What if the secret to living a life of impact, of creativity, of genuine connection is not to fight harder, but to align with the reality of what is? Think of the tree. It does not struggle to grow. It does not worry about the weather. It does not compare its height to the tree next to it. It does not try to perform the role of a tree better than it already is. It simply unfolds its leaves, stretches its roots deep into the earth, and accepts the sunshine and the rain as they come. It is in harmony with the environment, and because of this harmony, it reaches its full, magnificent potential. We too are a part of this natural world. We too are subject to the same laws of growth, of decay, of cycle, and of season. When we stop trying to fight the rhythm, when we stop trying to dictate the conditions, we find that our own capacity for life begins to flourish in ways we never imagined possible. The question is, are you willing to let go of the weight? Are you willing to stop identifying with the struggle? Are you willing to trust that you are enough, exactly as you are, right in this moment? This is the core of the work. This is the heart of the challenge. And it is the beginning of a life that is truly your own. The path is open, and it is waiting for you to take the first steady step. It is not a path of ease, for it requires the courage to look at the truth, but it is a path of liberation. It is the path of the one who realizes that they are the architects of their own joy, the guardians of their own peace, and the masters of their own destiny. The weight is yours to carry or yours to drop. The choice, always, is yours. We are now standing at the edge of the precipice, where the old narrative finally loses its grip. and the surgical precision of awareness begins to cut through the fog of our self-manufactured suffering. To understand how we have arrived at this moment, we must examine the mechanism of the second arrow. In the tradition of the ancient wisdom, it is taught that when we face the challenges of life, loss of a job, a sudden health crisis, the ending of a bond, or even the simple mundane friction of a day gone wrong way, are struck by an initial event. This is the first arrow. It is the raw, unadorned reality of existence. It is the inevitable entropy of the world, the fact that things fall apart, change and decay. To be alive is to be struck by these arrows. It is the nature of the human condition. But the first arrow is not what breaks us. The first arrow is merely a sting, a momentary intrusion of reality into our carefully constructed lives. What truly destroys our peace is the second arrow, which we fire into ourselves the very moment the first one lands. This second arrow is the story we tell about the event. It is the judgment, the self-flagellation, the desperate attempt to make sense of the chaos, the internal monologue that screams, "Why is this happening to me?" Or "I should have done better," or "This means I am failing." The second arrow is the ego's attempt to assert control by creating a villain or a victim. We are the ones who pull the bowstring, we are the ones who aim, and we are the ones who pierce our own hearts with the recycled pain of our past and the phantom anxieties of our future. We are not just participants in our lives, we are the relentless prosecutors of our own characters. Think of the way you respond when a mistake occurs. Perhaps you receive a critique that feels like a stinging rebuke. The first arrow is the feedback itself, a data point about a task. That is it. It is information. But the second arrow is the immediate, agonizing spiral into inadequacy. It is the narrative that claims this feedback is a character judgment, a death knell for your ambition, a signal that you do not belong. By the time you have finished firing your second, third, and fourth arrows, you are not suffering from the feedback, you are suffering from the war you have declared against your own worth. You have become a prisoner of your own reaction. The friction you feel is not the event, it is the friction of your resistance to the truth of the event. To break this cycle, we must look at the architecture of the ego with the cold, clear eye of a scientist observing a specimen. The ego is not a solid, permanent thing. It is a process. It is a flickering shadow cast by the light of our attention on the wall of our memory. We treat it as if it were a monument of marble, something to be protected, polished, and defended at all costs. But look closely. Where is the ego when you are in deep sleep? Where is it when you are fully absorbed in a task, lost in the flow of the present? It vanishes. It only re-emerges when we begin to tell the story of ourselves again. It is a construct, a collection of habits, a bundle of conditioned responses that we have mistaken for the core of our being. When we begin to see this, the entire landscape of our struggle shifts. We realize that we are not the wounded party, we are the silent witness, the vast empty space in which these stories arise and fall away. This is the great unmasking. We have spent our entire lives trying to curate an identity, trying to build a self that is invulnerable to the winds of change. We have poured our resources into fortifying our reputations, our positions, and our social masks. And yet, the wind blows, the seasons change, people leave, the world continues to turn, indifferent to the structures we have built. The suffering we experience is the result of our attempt to hold a static shape in a dynamic, fluid reality. Consider the metaphor of the shifting sand dunes. A traveler trying to mark a path across the desert will find that the wind constantly redistributes the grains. To insist on a permanent path is a recipe for madness. The wise traveler learns that the beauty of the desert is precisely in its lack of fixed form. They learn to move with the terrain, to adjust their stride, to find their way not by looking for a set path, but by reading the wind and the sun. We are currently trying to walk on quicksand while demanding that it remain as solid as concrete. The exhaustion we feel is the exhaustion of trying to freeze time. The moment we stop trying to control the uncontrollable, we begin to find our footing. This is not a passive surrender. It is a profound, active engagement with the reality of the present. It is the decision to stop firing the second arrow. It is the practice of noticing the stinging pain of the first arrow, the loss, the criticism, the frustration, and choosing to sit with it, to feel the physical sensation in the body, to acknowledge it without adding the toxic layer of narrative. When we feel the contraction in our chest, we say, "There is tightness." We do not say, "I am broken." When we feel the heat of anger, we say, "There is fire," not, "I am a bad person." By separating the sensation from the story, we rob the second arrow of its poison. This is the path of the surgeon. We are cutting away the unnecessary attachments that weigh us down. We are peeling back the layers of societal conditioning, the inherited expectations of our families, and the rigid, obsolete scripts of our past. It is painful, yes. There is a sense of loss as we discard the pieces of our identity we thought were essential. But what we discover beneath those layers is something far more resilient and authentic. We discover a capacity to experience life that is not mediated by our fear of it. We find that we can be present for our joy and equally present for our sorrow without being swept away by either. We have been conditioned to believe that we must constantly prove our value, that we must constantly strive to be more, to have more, to appear more. This is the root of the scarcity mindset. We act as if our worth is a finite resource that we must guard and accumulate. But look at the natural world. Does the ocean worry about its depth? Does the wind worry about its speed? They simply are. They operate from a state of total abundance, not because they have more, but because they do not have the need to be anything other than what they are. We are the same. We have been so busy trying to become something that we have forgotten how to be. The process of unlearning is the ultimate act of courage. It requires us to turn our attention away from the external world, the marketplace of opinions, the halls of power, the screens of distraction, and back toward the internal landscape. We must be willing to sit in the silence, to endure the boredom, to face the uncomfortable emotions that have been buried under layers of busyness. This is the crucible. In the heat of this practice, we are refined. The dross of our ego is burned away, leaving behind the pure, crystalline core of our being. We find that the person we were so desperately trying to protect did not exist, but the person who was doing the protecting was always here, waiting to be acknowledged. Think of the way the river clears itself. If you were to dump silt and debris into a rushing stream, the river would not fight the debris. It would simply continue to flow, the force of the water carrying the particles away until the clarity of the current is restored. We are the river. Our thoughts are the silt. Our anxieties are the debris. We do not need to fight them. We do not need to build dams or walls. We only need to trust the movement of our own presence, to allow the thoughts to pass, to see them for what they are: transient, insubstantial, and ultimately irrelevant to the truth of who we are. When we stop clinging to the debris, the clarity returns on its own. This is the meaning of the middle way. It is not a compromise. It is a razor-thin path between the extremes of attachment and aversion. It is the ability to engage with the world without becoming entangled in it. We can work, we can love, we can build, we can create, but we do so without the frantic, clawing need to ensure that the outcome justifies our existence. We act because it is what we are meant to do in this moment, because it is the natural expression of our nature. The outcome belongs to the world. The action belongs to us. This is the secret of the unburdened life. As we move through this transition, we will encounter resistance. The ego will not go quietly into the night. It will fight to maintain its grip. It will try to convince us that this new, spacious way of being is a trap, that we are becoming lazy, that we are losing our edge. It will whisper that we are no longer relevant, that we are being left behind. Do not listen to these whispers. They are the final desperate pleas of an architect who knows their structure is falling. They are the shadows trying to keep the light at bay. Recognize them for what they are. The ghost of a past that has no power over the present. You are not the shadow, you are not the architect. You are the space that holds the entire scene. And from this space, you can view the struggle with a detached, compassionate gaze. You can hold your own suffering with the same tenderness you would offer a child who has fallen and scraped their knee. You do not scold the child for falling, you comfort them. Treat your ego with the same kindness. It has done the best it could with the tools it was given. It was trying to keep you safe, but you have outgrown the cage. You have outgrown the protection. It is time to step out into the vast open horizon of your own potential. This is the anatomy of release. It is the realization that the weight we have been carrying was never ours to begin with. It was the weight of expectations, the weight of the past, the weight of the future. By dropping the stones, we do not become less, we become more. We become lighter, we become more agile, we become more capable of responding to the world as it actually is, rather than as we fear it to be. This is the transformation of the nervous system, from a state of hypervigilance to a state of dynamic equanimity. We are no longer vibrating in frequency with the chaos of the world. We are operating from a stable, internal frequency of our own making. Consider the power of the simple, present, unadorned breath. It is the one thing we can always return to. It is the anchor that is truly made of solid stone. In the midst of the most turbulent storm, you can find the center of your own breathing. You can feel the air filling your lungs, the expansion of your ribs, the softening of your belly. You can feel the heartbeat that pulses in time with the universe. You are grounded, you are present, you are here, and in this here there is no past to regret. There is no future to fear. There is only the unfolding of this current, breath-given moment. This is the transition from the life of the survivor to the life of the sage. It is the move from the world of the performer to the world of the witness. It is a fundamental shift in perspective that changes everything. We still encounter the first arrow. We still feel the pain of the world. But we no longer fire the second. We no longer make the pain our own. We no longer identify with the experience. We become the horizon against which the drama of life plays out. And as the horizon, we are immovable, vast, and eternally at peace. We must also confront the societal conditioning that tells us to be constantly in motion. We live in a culture that rewards the hustle, that equates silence with laziness and stillness with incompetence. We have been taught to fear the quiet, to avoid the gaps in the conversation, to fill every moment with some form of productivity. But this is a lie. The greatest accomplishments of human history did not come from the hustle. They came from the stillness. They came from the moments of deep, profound reflection, from the spaces where the mind was clear enough to receive the insights that changed the world. The stillness is not a void, it is a plenum. It is the fertile soil from which everything of value grows. To reclaim our lives, we must intentionally cultivate these spaces. We must carve out time in our days for nothingness. We must learn to step away from the noise, to turn off the devices, to sit with ourselves until the internal chatter subsides. This is not easy. At first it will be agonizing. The mind will kick, scream, and demand distraction. It will flood you with memories, anxieties, and lists of things you need to do. Let them pass. Treat them like compelling clouds. Do not engage with them. Do not chase them. Just sit. Eventually, the clouds will dissipate, and you will see the blue sky of your own awareness. This is the architecture of the new self. It is built not on the bricks of achievement, but on the foundation of presence. It is a house with many windows, allowing the light of reality to flood in from every direction. It is a place where you are always at home, regardless of where you are in the world. It is the ultimate form of self-sovereignty. You are no longer dependent on the validation of others, the success of your projects, or the opinions of your peers. You are anchored in the deep, silent bedrock of your own being. Do you see the freedom in this? Imagine waking up in the morning without the weight of the shoulds pulling you down. Imagine moving through your day with a sense of fluid intention, responding to the needs of the moment rather than the demands of your fears. Imagine encountering a conflict and staying grounded, keeping your voice calm, your breath steady, and your heart open. Imagine being able to look in the mirror and see not a product of your past, but the source of your own future. This is not a dream, this is your birthright. The journey to this state is not a destination. You do not reach it and stay there. It is a practice. It is a daily, hourly, moment-by-moment commitment to the truth of your own experience. It is the act of choosing, again and again, to drop the second arrow. It is the act of returning, again and again, to the anchor of the breath. It is the act of being, again and again, the space in which the drama occurs. The beauty of the path is that you are already on it. The very fact that you are reading these words, that you are reflecting on your own life, is proof that the awakening has already begun. What does it feel like to be truly free? It feels like the lightness of a bird taking flight. It feels like the ease of a river flowing into the sea. It feels like coming home after a long, long journey in a strange land. It feels like the quiet, radiant joy of simply being alive. You are that bird, you are that river, you are that home, you are the source of your own freedom. The weight you have been carrying is an illusion. The chains are made of thought. The prison is built of belief. And you hold the key in your hand right now, in this very instant. You have spent so much of your life trying to find yourself, trying to build a self, trying to prove a self. But what if you were to stop? What if you were to realize that the one you were looking for is the one who is looking? The seeker is the sought. There is no one to find because you have never been lost. You have only been distracted. You have only been caught in the story. Step out of the story. Step into the space. Step into the light of the present moment and see for yourself what remains when all the masks are stripped away. The anatomy of your release is not a technique you learn, it is a truth you remember. It is the remembrance that you are the vast, open space of awareness in which all experiences arise. You are the silence from which all sounds emerge. You are the depth from which all waves rise. You are not the experience, you are the experiencer. You are the witness of your own life, the eternal, unchanging observer of the unfolding drama. And as the observer, you are untouched by the play. You are the screen, and the story is merely a movie being projected upon it. The movie may be sad, it may be happy, it may be intense, but the screen remains unaffected. Do not be afraid of the silence. Do not be afraid of the void. It is in the void that everything is born. It is in the silence that everything is heard. It is in the stillness that everything is understood. You are the source of your own meaning. You are the author of your own story. You are the master of your own destiny. And it all begins with the simple, humble act of noticing. Noticing the weight, noticing the friction, noticing the second arrow, and noticing that you have the power to stop. If you were to drop the weight of your history this very second, what would your next movement be? Would you hold your head differently? Would you breathe more deeply? Would you look at the person in front of you with more kindness? Would you approach your work with more creativity? Would you laugh more easily? Would you love more fully? Would you be more present? The answer to these questions is your next step on the path. The answer is your invitation to the life you were meant to live. This is the anatomy of your own liberation. It is not found in the great, dramatic gestures of life, but in the small, quiet choices of every single day. It is found in the way you listen, the way you speak, the way you sit, the way you stand, the way you breathe. It is found in the way you respond to the challenges of your day, in the way you treat yourself when you stumble, and in the way you return to your center when you have been pulled away. You are building a new architecture for your life, stone by stone, breath by breath, moment by moment. It is a slow process, but it is a sure one. It is a path of refinement, of peeling away the layers, of revealing the core of who you are, and it is a path that you do not have to walk alone. The wisdom of the ages is with you. The silence of the universe is supporting you. The breath within you is guiding you. You are part of something much larger than your own story. You are part of the great unfolding mystery of existence, and you are a vital, necessary part of that mystery. As you sit here, reflecting on the weight of your own anchors, feel the lightness that is already beginning to emerge. Feel the space that is opening up in your mind. Feel the softness that is returning to your body. Feel the clarity that is coming back into your vision. You are not the person you were yesterday. You are not the person you were an hour ago. You are the person who is choosing in this moment to be free. Carry this awareness with you as you leave this space. Take it into your home, into your workplace, into your relationships, into the very intimacy of your own thoughts. Let it be the lens through which you see the world. Let it be the rhythm by which you live your life. You are the architect of your own joy. You are the guardian of your own peace. You are the master of your own destiny. And it all begins now, in this breath, in this moment, in this silent, powerful, unadorned truth of who you are. The journey is not about reaching a destination, it is about inhabiting the path. It is about living the truth of your own being, day by day, moment by moment. It is about letting go of the need to control, the need to achieve, the need to perform, and embracing the simple, profound, and radical joy of just being. It is about realizing that you have everything you need right here, right now. And it is about sharing that realization with the world, not through your words, but through your presence, through the way you carry yourself, through the quality of your attention, and through the radiance of your own authentic self. You are the light, you are the truth, you are the way. The weight of the invisible anchors is gone. You are free to move, you are free to live, you are free to love, you are free to be. And the beauty of it is that this freedom is not something you have earned, it is something you have uncovered. It was always yours. It was hidden, yes, buried under layers of belief and conditioning, but it was always there, waiting for you to recognize it, waiting for you to reclaim it, waiting for you to live it. So go forth then, into the world, with your eyes clear, your heart open, and your feet firmly planted on the ground of your own being. Go forth with the courage to be yourself, the willingness to be present, and the wisdom to know that everything you need is already within you. You are the ocean, and the ocean does not need to search for the water. You are the light, and the light does not need to search for the sun. You are the truth, and the truth does not need to search for the reality. You are, and that is enough. The invitation remains. If you were to drop the weight of your history this very second, what would your next movement be? Do not look to the past for the answer. Do not look to the future for the answer. The answer is in the stillness. The answer is in the breath. The answer is in the awareness that is looking at these words right now. The answer is you, and you are ready. You have always been ready. The path is yours to walk, the life is yours to live, and the moment is yours to inhabit. So walk, live, inhabit, and be the radiant, authentic, and truly free person you were always meant to be. The horizon is wide, the sky is clear, and the world is waiting for your unique and necessary light. Shine then, shine. To begin the work of reconstruction, we must move from the abstract understanding of our entrapment to the concrete mechanics of daily practice. We have identified the weight of our anchors. We have felt the abrasive friction of the second arrow, and we have glimpsed the spaciousness of our own true nature. Now we must turn our attention to the discipline of the gardener. If we wish to see the soil of our consciousness bloom, we cannot simply hope for change, we must create the conditions for it, moment by moment, breath by breath. The architecture of this transformation is built upon the foundational practice of observant non-attachment, a method that allows us to inhabit our lives without being consumed by them. The first step in this architecture is the cultivation of the witness gaze. Imagine that your mind is a vast, bustling marketplace where thoughts, memories and anxieties are the vendors hawking their wares. In our state of unconsciousness, we are the customers, constantly stopping at every stall, examining the goods, arguing over prices, and buying into the narratives they sell. We walk away from the market exhausted, our pockets empty, our minds cluttered with the trinkets of past regrets and future fears. To become the witness is to realize that you are not the customer, nor are you the vendor. You are the space in which the marketplace itself exists. You are the quiet, stable ground upon which the stands are built. Practice this by dedicating time each day to sit in stillness. Not to do something, not to achieve a meditative state, but simply to sit. When you sit, do not try to stop your thoughts. The mind is a machine designed to produce thoughts, just as the heart is a machine designed to pump blood. You cannot stop the heart, and you cannot stop the mind. Instead, treat every thought as a cloud passing through the sky. A cloud may be dark and threatening, or it may be light and ephemeral, but the sky is not affected by the cloud. The sky remains blue, infinite, and welcoming. When a thought of anxiety arises, a worry about a meeting, a sting of past embarrassment, do not attach to it. Do not pull it down and try to inspect it. Simply notice, here is a thought of anxiety, then let it go. Return your focus to the sensation of your breath. In this simple act, you are training your nervous system to prioritize the present reality over the narrative fiction of the ego. This training must then be extended into the marketplace of your daily activity. You cannot remain on your cushion forever, nor should you. The real practice occurs when you are in the middle of a high-pressure meeting or navigating a difficult conversation with a loved one. When you feel the familiar contraction of the ego, that spike of heat in the chest, the narrowing of your perspective, the defensive urge to lash out or shut down, this is your signal. This is the moment of the bell. Stop, breathe. Feel the physical sensation of the contraction without labeling it as my anger or my stress. Feel it as raw, vibrating energy in your body. By observing the energy directly, you strip away the story that justifies the reaction. You prevent the second arrow from being fired. Consider the metaphor of the tuning fork. Our nervous systems are constantly vibrating in response to the frequencies of our environment. When we are around stress, we vibrate with stress. When we are around anger, we vibrate with anger. The discipline of the gardener is to maintain a home frequency of equilibrium. You can recalibrate this by using the anchor of your physical body. When you feel yourself being pulled into the frequency of the surrounding chaos, ground your attention in your feet. Feel the sensation of your weight pressing into the floor. Feel the firmness of the surface beneath you. This sensory contact with the earth is a powerful reminder that you are a biological organism existing in space, not just a set of thoughts floating in a digital cloud. It is a physical grounding that helps you resist the pull of emotional contagion. As you refine this practice, you will begin to notice the gaps between your thoughts. These gaps are the most precious, underrated spaces in human existence. In the beginning, these gaps will be milliseconds long, the space between one thought ending and the next beginning. But with consistent practice, these gaps will lengthen. You will find moments of profound, crystal-clear silence in the middle of a chaotic afternoon. In these moments, you will see that you are not the voice in your head. You are the one who is listening to the voice. This is the ultimate realization of sovereignty. You are no longer at the mercy of your internal monologue, you are its master. This mastery is not about repression. We are not trying to crush our feelings or silence our minds. We are trying to change our relationship with them. We are moving from a relationship of identification to a relationship of observation. Think of a parent watching a child play. The parent is aware of everything the child does. They are protective and loving, but they are not the child. They do not share the child's tantrum, nor do they share the child's temporary obsession with a toy. They remain the steady, guiding force. You must become this parent to your own thoughts and emotions. When your ego throws a tantrum because it didn't get the validation it wanted, observe it with compassion. Understand that the ego is simply an old, frightened part of you trying to keep you safe in a way that no longer works. Comfort it, acknowledge its fear, but do not let it drive the car. The next component of your architectural work is the practice of intentional detachment, or what we might call the pruning of the garden. We are all prone to collecting unnecessary debris in our lives' relationships that drain our vitality, commitments made out of guilt, habits that serve only to numb our discomfort. These are the weeds that choke the potential of our inner landscape. You must be willing to prune them. Ask yourself every day, does this interaction, this commitment, or this activity serve my fundamental need for presence and peace, or is it merely feeding the ego's demand for status and security? If it is the latter, have the courage to step away. This is not selfishness, it is the essential maintenance of your internal structure. We must also address the way we consume information. In the modern age, we are constantly force-feeding our nervous systems with high-octane stimulus. We are flooding our minds with the concerns of thousands of people we will never meet and the tragedies of places we will never visit. This is a form of psychic malnutrition. To transform your nayluk, you must curate your intake, limit your exposure to the digital noise. Create intentional periods of silence where the only thing you consume is the reality of your immediate surroundings, the smell of the rain, the texture of your chair, the sound of your own breath. This is the equivalent of providing pure, clear water to your garden. It allows your nervous system to recover from the chronic overstimulation of modern life. Another vital practice is the cultivation of gratitude for the ordinary. Our dissatisfaction often stems from our habit of overlooking the miraculous nature of the mundane. We are so focused on the destination that we ignore the scenery. Every day, choose to notice 3 things that are inherently good: the taste of your morning coffee, the feeling of a warm shower, the way the light filters through the window in the afternoon. This is not about toxic positivity, where we pretend that everything is perfect. It is about recognizing the abundance that already exists, which provides a counterbalance to the scarcity mindset of the ego. It strengthens your ability to find beauty and connection in the present moment, which is the antidote to the friction of unfulfilled desire. We must also be vigilant against the tendency to use our practice as another way to perform. We can easily fall into the trap of trying to be the perfect mindful person, measuring our progress by how long we can sit or how calm we feel in a meeting. This is simply the ego putting on a new set of clothes. It is the same performer, just under a different name. True practice is devoid of performance. It is invisible. It is done in the privacy of your own mind, in the quiet integrity of your own actions. If you find yourself wanting to share your practice, wanting to be seen as evolved, take a step back. That is a red flag from the ego. True growth does not need an audience. As you develop this internal structure, you will encounter the inevitability of regression. There will be days when the weight of the old anchors feels heavier than ever. Days when you lose your temper. Days when you are consumed by anxiety. Do not despair. Do not use these moments as proof that you are failing. These are the moments where the practice is most essential. Acknowledge the regression. See it as an opportunity to practice self-compassion. When you notice that you have fallen, do not judge yourself. Simply note it. I have been pulled back into the loop and, gently, firmly, return to the witness position. This resilience is the true mark of the master. It is not about never falling, it is about how quickly and with what grace you return to your center. Think of your life as a long flowing river. For years, You have been trying to force the water through a series of narrow, jagged pipes. The pipes of expectation, the pipes of fear, the pipes of comparison. The water has become stagnant and pressured, prone to bursting. The practice we have discussed is the process of removing those pipes, allowing the river to return to its natural, broad and open path. The water will still flow, but it will do so with ease, with power, and with the natural, effortless grace of something that is exactly what it is meant to be. The discipline of this practice is a daily act of rebellion. It is a rebellion against the constant, low-frequency hum of a world that thrives on our insecurity and our distraction. It is a rebellion against the belief that we are just a collection of anxieties and responses. It is a declaration of your sovereignty, a statement that you are the architect of your own peace, the guardian of your own attention, and the master of your own destiny. And while this discipline is demanding, its rewards are unparalleled. You are not just changing your mind, you are changing the very way you interact with reality. As you continue this work, you will find that the edges between your practice and your life begin to blur. There is no longer a separate time for being mindful. Your work becomes a meditation, your conversations become an exploration of presence, your conflicts become opportunities for self-discovery. You are no longer living in a state of reaction, but in a state of responsive awareness. You are moving through the world with a sense of lightness, a sense of clarity, and a sense of profound, unshakable connection to your own true nature. This is the alchemy of the human experience. We take the lead of our conditioning, our fears and our failures, and through the persistent heat of awareness, we transform it into the gold of freedom. We do not destroy the ego, we integrate it, we tame it, and assign it its proper place as a tool for navigating the world, rather than the master of our experience. We reclaim the authority that we had been delegating to the shadows of our past. And in doing so, we become fully, radiantly, and unapologetically alive. You have now been given the tools of the architect. The blueprint is in your hands. The materials are your own thoughts, your own sensations, and the vast, infinite potential of your own awareness. The construction is your own life. Do not rush the process. Do not be discouraged by the complexity. Each stone you lay, each layer you remove, each moment you choose to be present is a foundational act of creation. You are building something that is meant to last, something that is meant to hold the beauty and the complexity of your own unique existence. Trust in the process, even when it feels as if you are moving backward. Trust in the silence, even when it feels as if you are hearing nothing. Trust in the breath, even when it feels as if you are struggling to find air. Trust in yourself, for you are the one who has always known the way. You were only waiting for the courage to look. The path is open, the day is new, and you are the only one who can take the next step. So take it with intention, take it with awareness, and take it with the full, unwavering commitment to the truth of who you are. The transformation you seek is not a destination, it is the very way you choose to walk this path. And you are walking it beautifully right now. We have reached the shore. After navigating the currents of our own conditioning and stripping away the rusted anchors that have held us in place for so long, we find ourselves standing upon the solid ground of the present. This is not the ground of certainty, for certainty is merely another fantasy of the ego. It is the ground of presence. It is the quiet, luminous stability that exists beneath the turbulence of our daily lives. When we stop trying to possess the moments, when we stop trying to freeze the river of change, we find that we are finally profoundly at home. The restlessness that once defined our existence, that low-frequency hum of dissatisfaction has dissolved, replaced by a spaciousness that can hold both the sorrow and the joy of being human without being shattered by either. This is the state of dynamic equanimity. It is not a state of apathy or detachment, but rather a state of total, unadorned engagement. We are no longer sleepwalking through the script of our lives, reacting to the shadows of the past or the ghosts of the future. We are the witnesses of our own unfolding, and as witnesses, we possess an agency that no external circumstance can touch. We are like a mountain that remains unmoved by the storms that gather at its peak. The clouds may rage, the thunder may roll, and the winds may howl, but the mountain remains, grounded in the deep, silent bedrock of its own nature. Consider what it means to be free in this way. It means you no longer require the world to be any different than it is in order for you to be at peace. You do not need the promotion, the validation, or the perfect conditions to experience the wholeness of your own existence. You recognize that the scarcity you feared was always an illusion, a trick of the light designed to keep you running toward a horizon that does not exist. You are, in this very moment, complete. There is nothing to add to your life, and there is nothing to take away. You are the source of your own meaning, and the joy you have been searching for has been beating in your chest all along, disguised as the simple, rhythmic miracle of your own breath. This shift in consciousness is the true birthright of the human being. It is the realization that we are not the fragmented, reactive entities we have been taught to believe we are. We are the space in which all experiences arise. We are the consciousness that perceives the world, the heart that feels the depth of connection, and the silent, immovable center that allows us to walk through the fire without being burned. We have reclaimed our sovereignty. We have learned to hold our own lives with the grace of a gardener tending to a plot, knowing when to plant, when to prune, and when to simply watch the seasons turn in their own perfect time. As you move back into the flow of your day, carry this silence with you. Let it be the lens through which you view your work, your relationships, and your own internal dialogue. When you feel the familiar tug of the anchor, pause. Remember the breath, remember the space. Remember that you are not the voice in your head, but the vast, open awareness that is hearing it. You have the tools, you have the path, and most importantly, you have the profound, inherent capacity to be free in the middle of any storm. The silence that now surrounds you is not a void, it is the source. It is the blank page upon which you will write the next chapter of your existence. Not with the ink of old regrets or the charcoal of future fears, but with the clear, vibrant light of the present moment. You are not a finished product, you are an unfolding mystery. You are the architecture of your own liberation, and the construction is never truly finished, for it is a living, breathing expression of the truth you have begun to inhabit. As the sun sets on the old way of being and rises on this new dawn of presence, there is only one final thing to consider. It is the question that will guide your every step from this point forward, the question that will act as your compass in the shifting sands of the future. It is a question that requires no answer, but rather a life lived in response to it. When you are standing at the threshold of your next decision, when you feel the hesitation of the ego or the pull of the old anchors, turn your gaze inward and ask yourself, if you were to release the story of who you are, if you were to drop the armor of your identity, and if you were to trust with your entire being that you are enough exactly as you are, what would your next movement be?